they had a team of locals who'd been turned called FREDS. And the name Fred, where it comes from, it's from once McKee is arrested by the Provisional IRA in September of 1972, Wright is picked up again. They give the information that leads to the attack on the intelligence gathering operation, the Foursquare Laundry. I know what happens then if we move on to Wright and McKee. In the case of Linsky, I think it's very much, it was an embarrassment what happened. It served a purpose to disappear him. And then this begins the process of disappearing in the north. Really, Seamus Wright was a married man living in Bombay Street in Belfast. He was a member of D Company, 2nd Battalion, the Provisional IRA, and he's arrested at his home on the 7th of February 1972, and he's taken to Palace Barracks. Now, he kind of disappears from there. He's in contact with his wife, but very sporadically. She's getting postcards from him, and they're coming from Carrickfergus, and then from places in England, and then from places in Birmingham. And she's saying, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I got picked up. I've to go on the run. I'm hiding out from the British. I'm hiding in Birmingham. I'm working tarmacking driveways." And he phones every so often from phone boxes in England. And his wife says she wants to meet him, so she gets a flight over to Birmingham. She meets him in a very sparsely furnished flat, and there's a guy there who Seamus Wright identifies as Colin, an SAS man. And it's clear now what's happening. He's working for the British, and he had actually been in the Palace barracks in Belfast the whole time. But to keep up the charade, the British had been flying him out to England to send postcards or make phone calls in case anyone was monitoring this. And there's a great charity called Paper Trail in the north who do research into this, and they actually found this is a rare thing to have, but they found a document that actually proves what had happened from a British Army patrol log. And it's just 3 sentences. I'll read it very quickly. It's on page 273 of the book. Wright, Seamus, 5th of February 1972, arrested by RUC and identified as volunteer in the Provisional IRA. 6th of February 1972, recruited into the MRF, Military Reaction Force, Mobile Reaction Force, whatever. We know it's a specialist British Army unit. 29th of March, discharged as unsatisfactory for further MRF use, taken to Birmingham and left there, being paid a total of £285. So something like that to have is, you know, and it's from the British Army, a very rare document, but it's just at the end of March. It ties in with what we know. He returns to Belfast. He's trying to resume a normal life with his wife. Presumably he's homesick, and the Provisional IRA abduct him and interrogate him. And basically he breaks under interrogation, and he reveals what's happening, that he has been recruited into the MRF, and that they have specific barracks and places they use in Belfast. And he's the person as well who says that they had a team of locals who'd been turned called FREDS. And the name Fred, where it comes from, it's from a comic book strip at the time. Fred Bassett was in the newspapers. So that's where it seems to come from. And again, this thing seems to be largely based around the Palace barracks. And these guys who are identifiers or working for them, again, like Thomas Kirby in the 1920s, sometimes they live and stay in the barracks. And he's actually, Wright, because he has confessed everything, is released briefly, but he's also identified Kevin McKee, a fellow IRA volunteer, as having been turned. McKee is from Moynard, the Moynard area of Belfast. It's often said that he was related to a leading Provisional IRA figure in Belfast with the same surname. I don't actually think that's accurate. But McKee seems to have been thought of this all as a bit of an adventure, and basically he liked wearing like a shoulder holster with a pistol the British gave him in it, you know, to feel, I don't know, was he thought he was James Bond or a kind of big man or something. But again, on page 274 of the book, I have evidence that was uncovered from the watchkeeper's log kept by the Scottish borderers. And again, if it's 4 or 5 lines, I can read it. Arrest 2250. Sergeant McVeigh lifted 2 men from the street. Kevin McKee, 50, Glenina Park, and he mentions another man from the Ballymurphy Road. They were both arrested. Kevin McKee gave information to search 57 West Rock Drive. Find 007, so 7 minutes after midnight. CS-37 went to search and found one Garand M1 rifle, one Lee Enfield .303 Mark IV rifle, two M1 carbine rifles, one .38 revolver, 9 assorted rifle magazines. So basically, McKee has given away an IRA arms dump. And again, we have the documentation from the British Army, which says that, which is very rare. In other cases, like G. McConville, we don't have paperwork like that. But once McKee is arrested by the Provisional IRA in September of 1972, he basically tries to deny everything at first, but he has this shoulder holster. All this has been described by Seamus Wright. It ties in. Wright is picked up again. They give the information that leads to the attack on the intelligence gathering operation, the Foursquare Laundry. I know you covered that in the podcast previously in the Kitson's War episode, so I won't go into that. Again, there's another place, the Gemini Rooms, a sauna, which was being used as a brothel to gather information. That's attacked as well. And they were taken to Cohalstown Bog in County Meath. They were both, by the Provisional IRA, they were both executed together, buried in the same grave, and their bodies were excavated, were dug up in 2015 by the Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains. And that is the team of researchers, forensic archaeologists, former police, etc. It's independent, set up in 1998 to recover the bodies of those disappeared who hadn't been found by the time of the Good Friday Agreement. And in some cases like that of let's say Joe Linsky or Robert Nyrak, they're actually still searching for those bodies.
Interesting that I believe Seamus Wright thought that his life would be spared, given that he gave up another Fred. And apparently, you mentioned in the book there, apparently Brendan Hughes, the decision which wasn't his to actually finish them.
Yeah, it's very controversial, and I know I've been told stuff by other former leading provisionals that I couldn't put in the book for legal reasons, and I'm not telling you, your listeners, your viewers, for legal reasons. But Brendan, the dark use we can talk about because he is he's dead, obviously. He said this was a very controversial thing, and he said that he was not the only leading provisional who was unhappy with this, and that there were serious arguments and debates over disappearing people, particularly in the case of Wright and McKee, and I think particularly in Wright's case, because Wright had given all the information he had exposed McKee as well, had exposed the Foursquare Laundries and that whole intelligence gathering operation. And it was felt by Hughes, or so he claimed, that, you know, we had given him assurances, we had promised him nothing would happen. And even when they were taken down south, apparently they weren't executed straight away. The IRA guys who were guarding them felt a lot of sympathy for them, and basically were unwilling to execute them, and volunteers of the Provisional IRA from Belfast had to come down and do the grim deed itself, or so the